Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys about people who say things like that. I just want to look like I can bench press 400 pounds, but I don't really care if I can bench press 400 pounds. Let me put on my plus 5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And it's really silly that people say things like this because they actually act like there's some efficient way, barring excessive amounts of drug use, that you're actually going to look the part without actually being able to perform. This actually takes more creative work and more work to get big enough to look like you could bench 400 pounds and still be weak. You actually have to use some really creative and almost stupid ways of training to get there. Like, you have to go out of your way to do that. And for generations, even in bodybuilding, and I'm not a big fan of bodybuilding, but I understand the appeal to some people. These guys for generations focused upon strength. They did a ton of big, heavy barbell work. They did full body training. These guys focused on things like the squat, the deadlift, heavy overhead pressing, heavy bench pressing, heavy rows, weighted chin-ups. And look at how they looked by comparison. These classic physiques, when you compare how they look to the guys today, even back then when they had access to very, very few drugs, and a lot of them didn't have access to drugs, and if they did, it was just a little bit of Devo. Again, you're going to see less gains on that than people who can, spend $5 a month on testosterone. All right, it's not that strong at the doses these guys were using, yet they're thicker. These guys had just a total thickness and different look than a lot of the guys who are in the gym today screaming about aesthetics and training for some sort of classic physique while eschewing strength training or heavy training. But the truth is, look at how they looked compared to a lot of these guys who are promoting different ideas. And I'm not talking about necessarily body fat. I'm not going to get into the whole body fat thing of how being shredded is bad for you, because these guys were never shredded. They weren't ripped. And they didn't need to be. In fact, if you want to look at what people would consider to be attractive, most people think a ripped physique is hideous. And these guys thought that way too. It wasn't encouraged to get super, super lean just to look pleasantly lean, athletically lean. A big difference from the way the physique world has gone today, particularly due to the internet. But actually, most people find that disgusting. You're not going to impress people by being super shredded other than other guys. Other guys who lift, that's about it. But, yeah, these guys train to be big and strong. Look how they look. Also, I'll give you guys a perfect example of a YouTuber. And, I know he's genetically gifted. But take someone like the golden one, Marcus Fullen. He's got a YouTube channel out there. He's a Swedish guy. What does he focus on? What are his most important exercises? The squat, the bench press, the deadlift, the push press, and the weighted chin-up. That's what he focuses on. And look at how he looks. And people can argue whether he's natural or not all day long. Totally separate argument, but even if he's not natty, they don't have a lot of stuff available in Sweden. I have friends in Sweden, multiple guys I've competed with in Sweden. It's actually, they struggle to get good anabolics over there. They don't have access to a lot. So you look at how he looks, because he also does a little bit of strongman, a little bit of powerlifting. Look at how he looks compared to a lot of guys who claim they train for aesthetics. He'll argue that a weighted chin-up is one of the greatest bicep exercises ever. Shoulders and triceps push press. He's getting the results, and he looks like those guys looked in the 50s and 60s. It's that classic look. You get that look from doing heavy barbell work while watching your diet. That's all it is. That's one of the biggest differences between certain power lifters, and that is that some power lifters don't care about their diet as much. They don't care about being leaner. But the idea is the same. And you know what? When we have studies that have come out, like I've linked for you guys, showing that 3-rep sets produce just as much muscle gain as 10-rep sets when total weight moved is similar. Meaning 7 sets of 3 produces the same muscle growth as 3 sets of 10 when you normalize and everything's balanced out in terms of how much weight you lifted. Meaning you got to do fewer sets and reps, obviously, with a heavier weight to reach that same tonnage. They produce the exact same muscle growth. So this idea that lifting heavy doesn't produce muscle growth is silly. And that's the other thing. All these guys actually believe you can completely separate size and strength. Whereas with the routine, they gained equal size but gained more strength. And I would ask people to think about that for a minute. If you can follow this any sort of training routine They both give you equal amounts of muscle mass. Why wouldn't you want to get stronger with it? And people will argue, well, the injury, do you guys really think most of you are going to get strong enough with a balanced program, a proper training program, that if you got stronger, that it's going to predispose you to more injury? No, in fact, it can predispose you to less injuries. Same thing when you look at different exercises. Actually doing big, heavy compounds that work your full body help you avoid injuries. They give better muscle balance. They give better core stability. They make it less likely that you're going to hurt your back. They make it less likely you're going to tear a hamstring, because you know what? Your injuries aren't just from the weight room. Your injuries can be in all sorts of physical activities or things you might be involved in. People who are overall stronger are harder to injure and they're harder to kill. And there's actually been some stuff from even special forces guys and special forces trainers have even said that publicly. Stronger people are harder to kill. Just in general, there are benefits to strength. So I don't understand why people have this idea that they want to go to the gym and put in the work and not be strong when there are benefits to it. And here's the thing. It's even a time issue sometimes, because when you stop and think about it, we know that low reps produce just as much muscle gains as high reps when things are equalized. But what about compound movements? People actually spend all this time doing all these curls to build their biceps. And yes, I do curls too. It's one of the very few muscles I isolate are my biceps, and they're not that fantastic. And that's why I isolate them, because they do lag. But I want people to show me a single study anywhere that shows that curls produce more muscle growth than a chin-up in the bicep. Never been done. In fact, the only studies we have that are comparative out there have shown that compound movements put more muscle on even these smaller muscle groups, at least in novice lifters. And it's harder to study in more advanced ones sometimes because muscle growth is so slow. But we know in novice lifters, a lat pull down builds more bicep than a curl. You know, and people don't think in those terms, but it's true. But let me ask a question. If you were to go through and try to isolate all the muscles you worked in a chin-up, instead of just getting strong on chin-ups to build your lats, your biceps, your rear delts, all these things, it'll take more time. You actually have to spend more time in the gym and do more exercises, as many as 3 or 4 different exercises if you want to try to isolate that and get the same amount of muscle mass you get from a weighted chin-up and all those muscles. But if you just came in and focused on getting strong on weighted chin-ups, your biceps, lats, rear delts, all that stuff would develop. Yet people don't want to do that. They want to come in and try to isolate everything. Like they actually go out of their way to say, I want to isolate every muscle instead of letting the big compounds do most of my development and just isolating the things that lag. All these guys who chase this idea of size without worrying about strength have to do more exercises, and they have to come in and isolate more stuff, trying to get everything to grow. And it's just not necessary. And I'm not telling people not to do isolation movements. Isolation movements definitely have their place. But they shouldn't be your primary growers of muscles. That's completely inefficient. And here's the side thing. When you work a lot of muscles in big, heavy compounds, it trains you to use your body as one larger functional unit. It increases overall strength better, overall performance better. So you gain the same muscle mass, oftentimes with better performance, again, strength, being able to use your full body for different things. Since people tend to think of strength as just, a bench press or curl strength, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your ability to hit someone out on a playing field, your ability to wrestle someone, grapple someone, pick up something heavy off the ground. That's what I'm talking about with strength. If you're doing mostly isolation movements to build these different muscles, yeah, you're going to get stronger. It's impossible not to get stronger when you grow, but you're going to have less strength. So you're going to have to put in more time in the gym to get the same muscle mass, but less performance. It's absurd. The whole mentality that people have there is absurd. It doesn't even make sense logically, unless it's just an exercise addiction thing. And they'll say, well, I'm in there longer, burning more calories. Really? You think doing some curls burns more calories than weighted chin-ups? You really think you're going to lose fat faster that way? Come on. Think about that for a minute. You can't train your biceps enough to burn a significant amount of calories. You can't be done. It's a tiny little muscle. Same thing, people do side laterals or whatever. You're not burning a lot of calories doing 10 sets for your side delts or 10 sets for your biceps. Trust me, that's not burning calories. That's like half a bite of an apple. That's it. That's all you burned. But they do this and they don't think about it. Same thing, people come in and say, I'm going to do super slow training because it fatigues the muscle more. No, it doesn't. Moving a weight more quickly recruits upper threshold fibers faster. It actually requires more energy to accelerate 200 pounds, a given distance in half a second versus 1 second actually requires more force, more energy, more muscle fiber recruitment. And it will make you stronger faster. Yet guys will come in and do this super slow training. They'll come in and lift weights slowly, actually truly believing they're going to gain more muscle from it. Where's the data showing you gain more muscle from it? This is again just bodybuilder myth, and it's because people are scared of getting strong for some reason. And oftentimes people who get caught up in this bodybuilding thing honestly think that if they get too strong, they're either going to get injured or they're going to look like a power lifter or whatever. They're scared of a certain look, when a lot of that's just muscle balance and diet. But coming in and doing things like lifting weights slowly will actually reduce athletic performance. No athlete in the world ever trains slow. Every athlete trains for speed and power because it makes you more athletic. It gives you more strength, more speed, more power for everything you do in life. So why would you ever train yourself to lift a weight slowly? It doesn't even build more muscle, but a lot of bodybuilders and people out there who are chasing this aesthetics thing actually think that way. They will come in and they want to isolate every muscle in their body, so they spend more time in the gym. They want to do all these slower movements, lift a weight more slowly so that they're weaker, they're slower, all trying to chase this goal of looking like they're strong and powerful and athletic. And it's just an ass-backwards way of thinking, because we've seen and observed it historically, and all these guys in the 50s and 60s and all these other people, everyone from, the Golden One, who I mentioned, to people like Dmitry Koklov, all these guys have impressive aesthetic physiques from doing big, heavy barbell work. But they don't just look athletic, they are athletic. I mean, wanting to get big muscles, just a peacock, peacocking around without being able to perform is like having a really big dick that won't get hard. What's the point? If you had a really big dick, I would hope you would want it to get hard also, right? Wouldn't that be the best of both worlds? So why would people go out of their way? Why do they go out of their way to say, I want to look big and strong and athletic and powerful, without actually being strong and athletic and powerful? Why not just do both? There's actually no sense behind the efforts that people put in. They put in more work trying to put on size while being weaker. They put in more work than if they had just got stronger and more powerful and had the same look. It's ridiculous. It's inefficient. And it's an absolutely crazy mindset that doesn't make any sense when you really think about it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.